ARRLNTS Net Monthly at 6:30 p.m. W5FC. W5FC.
This is InFabBB. I'm getting ready to start Skynet in a few minutes. Please, if you need to use this repeater, please do so before 9 p.m. This is InFabBB.
Mr. Chairman, I need to make myself very clear. If we uplink now, Skynet will be in control of your military.
But you'll be in control of Skynet, right?
That is correct, sir.
Skynet.
This is N5BB. My name is Bill, and I'll be your net control station for this session of the Dallas Amateur Radio Club Skynet. Skynet is a weekly net called every Saturday night at 9 p.m. concerning the subject of astronomy. Our purpose is to help amateurs become familiar with the nighttime and daytime sky, astronomy, and space in general. This net is open to all. This net is open to all amateurs interested in this topic. And we encourage your participation, comments, and suggestions for this net. Stations with priority or emergency traffic may enter the net at any time to use the pro sign break in your call sign. This is a directed net. Please do not transmit without direction from net control. That would be me. And stations are reminded to identify the end of your transmissions. This weekly net operates on 146.88 megahertz with a PL tone of 110.9. Check-ins via Echolink are also possible using a W5FC-R station ID or Echolink node 37247, and I am monitoring Echolink. Tonight's topics, astronomy charts, pictures, and live audio-video links are available online. Go to www.w5fc.org right now for the complete list. Remember to tell others about this popular net. You can now check in the net electronically by going to the club website, w5fc.org. Look for tonight's Skynet announcement and click on the hot link to check in. We will acknowledge you on the air, and don't worry if you want to check in via voice. We'll continue to do that too, over the air or over Echolink. All amateur operators are welcome. You do not need to be a member of any amateur radio club to participate. The net's 90 minutes long, structured in several parts: general announcements, Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas, National Space Society, discussion topic of the evening by the net control station was up, the space exploration and space history, the constellation of the week, space launch of the week, visible satellite passages of the week, and astronomical questions and answers. All amateurs licensed to transmit on this frequency are invited to check in. Currently on the w5.fc.org check-in link, we have the following people checked in. Myself, Tom, KE5ICX in Corpus Christi. Chaz, with his sidekick Bob the Cat, KF5JHA in Mesquite. Robert, AA5AH in Richardson. And Tony, NT5TM in Dallas, but always with the birds. So, that's who's checked in so far. So now let's look for general check-ins. This is via RF. We'll do Echolink later. Please come down with your call sign only. Excuse me. Please check in now with your call sign, your name, and your location. Again, general RF check-ins. Call sign, name, and location. Over.
This is Whiskey 5, bacon, lettuce, tomato, Bill, garlic.
This is Kilo, Golf 5, Uniform, Foxtrot, Romeo, Jacob in Farmers Branch.
This is Whiskey Bravo 4, Mike, Foxtrot, India, WB4MFI, Ted, Dallas, low power.
November Victor 5, Foxtrot, Virginia in Fort Worth.
Kilo Foxtrot 5, Zulu, Bravo, Lima, Bill, Farmers Branch. This is Kilo Golf 5, Whiskey Victor Lima, James, North Carrollton.
This is Whiskey 5 Golf Uniform Sierra. It's Gus, far, far northeast Dallas.
Okay, I guess we finally got that list. I'd like to recognize Bill, W5BLT. Good evening, Bill. Jacob, KG5UFR. Ted, WB4MFI. Virginia, NV5F. Good to see you at the Irving Hamfest today. Bill, KF5ZBL. Good to see you at the Irving Hamfest today. James, KG5WVL. And Gus, W5GUS. Do we have any other RF check-ins for Skynet? This is N5BB looking for general check-ins.
This is November 5, Alpha Juliet Delta, Aaron, far north Dallas.
And I'll recognize N5AJD. I forgot to ask for short-time check-ins. Do we have any short-time check-ins? None heard. Let's look over at Echolink. KF5JHA. Chaz, do you want to check in on voice? He's already checked in on the the web form, so I guess he's not going to check in on voice. That's okay. Also, I'd like to recognize on the web form a I5SR. That's new to me. AI5 Sierra Romeo Swan in Carrollton. Welcome to you, Swan. Okay. And I recognize NT5TM, Tony, if I didn't recognize him before. Let's see, I got AA5AH, Robert, and Richardson, and we got Chaz, and K5ICX Tom. I think that's it. Okay, do we have any other check-ins via any mode to Skynet? If so, please come now. Station trying to check in. We didn't hear any audio. Try again. try one more time. Do we have any other check-ins via any mode to Skynet? If so, please come now.
Kilo 5, Juliet Delta Whiskey, John and Cuppel.
And to recognize John, K5JDW. Hi, John. Any other check-ins? Nothing heard. Check one more time for the web form. But Suwan, AI5SR, is the last person to check in over there. Okay. Now, do we have any general announcements for this evening's net? These can be related to amateur radio, astronomy, space, something of general interest to licensed hams. If so, please come now with your call sign only.
November Tango 5, Tango Mike.
And I recognize NT5TM. Go right ahead, Tony.
Good evening, Bill. Now that the Hamfest and the lecture and lab have happened, I don't have a whole lot to say right now. Tonight's Afterglow movie discussion will focus on, I think I quoted this from Tom, the sequel nobody wanted, the Philadelphia Experiment 2, an exploration of Nazis, alternate history, and apparently intermittent boredom. That'll happen tonight at 10:30 or so. This week will be the second week of the month, and so our Monday net will be MCOM 101. This monthly net focuses on public service communications, and you do not need to be a member of any organization to participate. Please join us this Monday at 7 p.m. local time on this repeater. And, well, I'm looking forward to Skynet. That's all I have for announcements. NT5TM.
Thank you, Tony. Do we have any questions or comments about Tony's items? Or does anybody else have any announcements? If so, please come down. Okay. AMSAT, the Radio Amateur Satellite Group, has 3 nets available to Dallas residents. Tuesday evenings at 8 p.m. Central Time. Check in the National AMSAT net. Go to Echolink and look for asterisk, AMSAT asterisk. Or go to www.amsatnet.com. There's 2 local nets also on Tuesday evening on this repeater at 8 p.m. You'll hear the AMSAT EastNet, except for the first Tuesday of the month, because that's the Dallas Amateur Radio Club night. So, again, every Tuesday evening except for the first Tuesday at 8 p.m. on this repeater, look for the AMSAT net talking about everything involving amateur satellites. Then, on Wednesday evenings at 9 p.m., on the Arlington 147.14 megahertz repeater with a 110.9 PL and a positive offset, we have one for the western part of the Metroplex. The Dallas Amateur Radio Club hosts a number of nets on Monday evenings at 7 p.m. And so the first week it's ham cooking, but the second week it's emergency communication, as I believe Tony said. So listen on Monday evening at 7 p.m. Monday evening for Emergency Communication 101. Then there's something else going on every other Monday of the month at 7 p.m. Saturdays are the night of nets. At 7 p.m. we have TechNet. We talk about everything related to amateur radio, technical topics, as well as just news relating to amateur radio. At 9 p.m. we have Skynet. which is this net, which talks about everything involving astronomy, space, and space exploration. This net ends at 10:30 p.m. when we start the Afterglow movie net, where we have a discussion about some movie. Sometimes mainly it's a bad science fiction movie. Then on the first and third Sundays of every month, we have the Dallas Amateur Radio Club meeting on the air. This is at 7 p.m. on the first and third Sundays, followed at 8 p.m. on the first and third Sundays by the Radio Amateur Civil Emergency Service training net. Every day we have at 6:30 p.m. on this repeater, the ARRL National Traffic System training net, and this net continues at 9:30 p.m. on the Irving W5FC repeater, which is at 146.72 megahertz. These two nets are about traffic handling. Anybody's welcome to check in at any or all of these nets, but please listen so you're checking in at the proper time. Tom, K5ICX, would you like to give us your very accurate description of tonight's Afterglow movie? This is N5BB.
Why, thank you, Bill. I'll do exactly that, and I've got to warn you up front, it's a time travel story, so it could be confusing, even if I try and deconfuse it. David Herdig was confused. 9 years after his trip from 1943 to 1984, he'd gotten used to things seeming normal. He'd been driving his energy-efficient Honda Civic, regular trips to the Blockbuster Video, always being kind and rewinding that night's rental. But this was getting ridiculous. Each morning, a pile of yearbooks from World Book Encyclopedia kept showing up at his front door. Changes in the timeline, specifically World War II, were escalating. In the morning, a yearbook would proclaim Allied forces winning the war, but by afternoon, the Axis of Evil had won. Heck, there was even a book which proclaimed that Disney Inc. had thought out Walt Disney from his cryo-freeze chamber, and he was now running the nation, or at least in the AM, and then an empire by afternoon. Oh, time travel was such a nuisance. And when would it all end? If you could only travel back in time once, it meant you could travel back in time always, every time, every hour, sometimes even the same day at the same minute, over and over. There was no theoretical end to any of it. So join us for the movie sequel probably nobody wanted, The Philadelphia Experiment 2 from 1993 tonight at 10:30 p.m. Nosebleeds are optional. Back to you, Bill, KE5 ICX.
Well, thank you, Tom. That was as confusing as normal. And if you're too young to know who Walt Disney was, well, just leave off the word Walt. Disney, you should recognize that. Okay, next, do we have any other check-ins for Skynet? If so, please come now with your call sign, your name, and your location.
Kilo November 5, Echo, Echo, Echo. Al from Allen.
KN5E. Hello, Al. Do we have any other check-ins? Okay, I don't see anybody else having checked in on the web form at w5fc.org or on Echolink. So now it's time for Chaz, if Bob the Cat will allow him to do so. Chaz, please tell us about the Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas. KF5JHA, this is N5BB, and this is Skynet.
Thank you, Bill. This is KF5JHA, Chaz. I'm sorry I missed the Irving Ham Fest. I'm sick, and
So I really didn't want to share that. All right. So on March the 27th, that was a week ago, was the last Texas Astronomical Society. Oh, that's going to be the next Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas Club meeting. The meeting will be held at 7:30 p.m. in person at the University of Texas at Dallas, and also held on Zoom. I don't know the featured speaker or the topic at this point. Now, TASS also hosts Saturday night public observing sessions. Skynet was picked to be on Saturday nights, so there could be an opportunity for live reports from the Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas public observing sessions. On the first Saturday of the month, that would be tonight, stargazing is held at Fairview. Well, it was cloudy, and there was rain in the area, so we don't have any check-ins from there. It's my fault because I have a new C-Star S30 Pro I was going to take out. That's an astronomical camera I was going to take out and share with other people, but that didn't work out. It's my fault. New curse on the equipment. It's a cloud curse, yes. You can check the Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas website at texasastro.org for updated information and details about meetings and public observing sessions. Oh, there's going to be a Messier Marathon at the Dark Sky site for the Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas next weekend. Let's see if that works. All right. Well, this is KF5JJ, back to our net control.
Thank you very much, Chaz. Next, we have National Space Society activities. This is N5BB. I happen to be the National Space Society North Texas Chapter Vice President and Membership Director. My email is space@byron.net. That's SPACE @BYROM.net. The National Space Society is a nonprofit group based in the U.S., which is interested in the exploration and development of space and the creation of a spacefaring civilization. Our local National Space Society chapter website is ntx.nss.org. Our group also has an active Facebook page. Just type National Space Society of North Texas into the search box and request access. The North Texas chapter of the National Space Society meets at 3:30 p.m. on the second Sunday afternoon of each month at Spring Creek Barbecue on Highway 183 in Irving. The speaker at our March the 8th meeting, yes, that's tomorrow afternoon, will be Pradipta Shrestha, who will discuss our chapter CubeSat demonstrator project. That's right. We're building a CubeSat thing, which is different from the one that Virginia built. Our local NSS chapter we sponsored 3 space-related special award prizes, 1, 2, and 3, at the Dallas Regional Science and Engineering Fair last Saturday, February 28th at Fair Park in Dallas, and it was a lot of fun. On the last Friday evening of each month, from 6 to 8 p.m., the National Space Society North Texas Chapter sponsors a social event called Space Rendezvous at Cheddar's Restaurant, 700 West Highway 635 in Irving. You do not need to be a member of any organization to attend. The next Space Rendezvous will be held on Friday, March the 27th. Always the last Friday of the month, unless it's a major holiday like Christmas. We wouldn't hold it then. We usually have maybe 7 to 10 people, sometimes more. We had a lot of people at our last meeting. The big National Space Society event each year is the International Space Development Conference, ISDC. ISDC 2026 will be held in Tyson's Corner, Virginia, which is not far from Washington, D.C. The dates are June 4th to 7th, 2026. I will be there. If you're interested, let me know, and I'll give you all the details. you have any questions about the National Space Society, please contact Bill, November 5, Bravo, Bravo. You can contact me at my QRZ listed email address or space@byram.net. Does anybody have any questions or comments, or do we have any additional check-ins? This is Skynet in 5BB, looking for additional check-ins. Okay, I don't see any online check-ins. Now we got the discussion topic of the evening by your net control station. This is going to be about NASA returning to the moon, humans to the moon. NASA still has a lot of work to do to return to the moon. We have some recent updates. NASA announced on February the 27th the following changes to the upcoming Artemis missions. Artemis 2 is now expected to launch in April. That's next month. It will be a manned mission, which will loop around the moon but not land on the surface. Artemis 3 has been changed. It'll now be an additional test flight after Artemis 2 and before a lunar landing attempt. The new Artemis 3 in 2027 would have an Orion spacecraft attempt to rendezvous and dock with one or more proposed lunar landing craft in low Earth orbit. The Starship HLS from SpaceX or the Blue Moon Mark II from Blue Origin are the two lunar landing craft under consideration. So again, they would send up the Orion spacecraft on the SLS rocket, and they would try to do a rendezvous in space around the Earth, which would be required if they were going to the moon, so they're going to try Earth orbit first, and then they're going to land. Humans would be involved. Artemis 4 is now planned to be the first moon landing of the Artemis project, and this is still scheduled for 2028. Artemis 5 is planned as the second moon landing later in 2028. So we're talking about one Artemis mission this year, hopefully next month, to go with the humans to go around the moon but not land. In the following year, we would have a rendezvous in low Earth orbit, and then the year after that, 2028, we'd have two moon landings. That's the current plan. This is a big change. Okay, here's an article from NASAspaceflight.com, and I'm only reading part of this article. NASA's Artemis course correction boosts moonward momentum, but key details are still maturing. NASA Administrator Jared Isaacman unveiled sweeping changes to the Artemis program aimed at restoring momentum, reducing technical risk, and establishing a sustainable path to lunar exploration, citing persistent delays, technical setbacks, and an unsustainable 3-year gap between SLS launches. Isaacman described the prior architecture as not a path to success. Industry partners have largely endorsed the streamlined approach, although aligning the extensive SLS supply chain and workforce to the new plan will present implementation challenges. Here's the revised plan. It standardizes hardware configurations, adds a critical integrated systems test flight in low Earth orbit, increases launch cadence to roughly one SL mission every 10 months, and maintains the target for the first crewed lunar landing in 2028, potentially with 2 landings that year. Artemis 2 remains the immediate priority. The first crewed Orion flight will loop around the moon, with launch now targeted for April 2026. That's right, next month. The SLS upper stage, currently the ICPS, was rolled back to the vehicle assembly building after a helium leak caused by a dislodged seal in the quick disconnect system was identified during preparations. Repairs required special access platforms in High Bay 3, with rollout to the launch pad 39B currently projected around March 19th of 2026. This is getting back out to the launch pad. It was during this repair period that ISMIC announced the comprehensive replan. The most significant change affects Artemis 3. Originally planned as the first crewed lunar landing in 2027, it's been reconfigured as an all-up systems test in low Earth orbit. Orion will rendezvous and dock with one or both commercial human landing systems. SpaceX's Starship HLS and or Blue Origin's Blue Moon Mark II, validating in-space operations like support, propulsion, docking interfaces, and Axiom Space's lunar EVA suits. Explicitly modeled on Apollo 9, the mission eliminates the high-risk direct jump to surface operations on the moon without prior integrated testing. Artemis 4 will then deliver the first crewed lunar landing in early 2028, with Artemis 5 following later that year for a second touchdown and additional outpost development on the moon. NASA intends to sustain at least one crewed landing per year thereafter, building toward an enduring lunar presence. Although some media mistranslated this as delay, it's actually part of a drive to speed up the Artemis objectives. To achieve this faster tempo, the agency is standardizing future SLS flights on a close to near Block 1 configuration, canceling the planned Exploration Upper Stage, EUS, and associated Block 1B upgrades. Production lines will focus on repeatable, high-rate manufacturing to rebuild workforce muscle memory. Isaacman framed the changes as a return to the fundamentals, standardizing vehicle configuration, increasing the flight rate, and progressing through objectives in a logical phased approach. This is how we achieved the near impossible in 1969, going to the moon the first time. It's how we'll do it again. This is N5BB, and this is Skynet. He emphasized urgency in the face of credible competition from our greatest geopolitical adversary. By the way, that's China. At the same time, Associate Administrator Ahmed Kasatriya described the plan as providing a more stable foundation and a more realistic path. The ICPS is being changed to the Centaur 5. It's the new upper stage. While the Centaur 5 not explicitly named in the announcement, sources and even graphics strongly indicates the likely replacement for the ICPS starting after Artemis 3. On Friday, it was confirmed via NASA contract award. So yesterday they confirmed they had a new contract for the Centaur 5 upper stage. So this, the ICPS, this is the upper stage, the current one. It's a single engine, the RL-10 cryogenic upper stage, derived from the Delta IV second stage, successfully supported Artemis 1, and is slated for Artemis 2 and the reconfigured Artemis 3. Its Delta IV heritage limits high-rate production and contributing to extended launch gaps. The original plan called for transitioning to the more powerful 4-engine EUS with Artemis 4 to enable heavier payloads and Block 1B capability. However, EUS development encountered significant delays and cost overruns, making it incompatible with the push for standardized rapid flights. NASA has canceled EUS and Block 1B2 upgrades entirely, opting for a standardized upper stage to support about 10-month intervals between launches and annual landings from 2028. The agency describes this as a near Block 1 setup with a new second stage. Centaur 5, the ULA modern dual RL-10 liquid oxygen, liquid hydrogen upper stage for Vulcan Centaur, offers proven reliability, ongoing production, human-rated heritage, and propellant compatibility. Its larger capacity could deliver compatible or better translunar performance without major SLS redesigns, aligning with the back-to-basics focus on repeatable hardware. There's also a problem with the mobile launch system. The shift to the original EUS second stage was going to require a new mobile launcher, the Mobile Launcher 2. This is what goes out at the launch site. Due to height and interface differences, the Mobile Launcher 2, built by Bechtel, reached about 90% completion at a cost exceeding $1 billion. NASA has since stated it's no longer planning to use Mobile Launcher 2. It's surplus to requirements for Artemis. So Mobile Launcher 1, which already is there, will support all future missions, with relatively minor modifications to umbilical arms and interfaces for the new upper stage. Much less extensive than required for the old things. This is to keep on schedule. Last but not least, the Lunar Gateway is omitted from these announcements but not explicitly canceled. The Lunar Gateway, the planned multinational lunar orbit station, was conspicuously absent from Isaac's announcement supporting materials. NASA had not formally canceled the Gateway. Its role and priority appears significantly diminished under the surface-focused, high-cadence roadmap. Hardware development continues, with international partners still engaged. However, without confirmed delivery flights, assembly and operations remain in limbo. This is a back-to-basics philosophy. Also, the booster obsolescence and life extension plan to upgrade the solid-stage boosters has effectively been canceled right now. It's just going to take too long. The core stage, though, is working fine, and it's expected they're going to be able to still building the liquid-fueled core stage of the SLS rocket with no delays. Production is underway for future flights. The reception to the Artemis replan has been largely positive within the space community, with broad support from industry partners, former leaders, and some congressional voices. This plan, if rolled out on schedule, pushes SpaceX and Blue Origin to fulfill their obligations without delay. Former NASA Administrator Jim Bridenstine publicly praised Asimov's leadership, calling it a display of clarity and conviction. Again, there's a lot of questions and everything, but it looks like things are moving forward. That's all I got for now. Too much more to read, so I'll stop. Do we have any questions or comments or additional check-ins? This is N5BB, and this is Skynet. Okay, I don't see any additional check-ins online or on Echolink. So we are going to, okay, there's a lot I didn't read. There's a huge amount of information available out there about all these changes. Next, it's time for What's Up? Chaz, KF5JHA. This is N5BB. You know, what happens if we look up outside and look up there, Chaz?
Bill, I haven't been outside recently, but the last time I was, It was clouds. That's what we saw. Yeah, this is Chaz, KF5JHA. We call this segment of Skynet What's Up, because it's all about what has gone on astronomically over the last couple of weeks and what will take place over the next couple of weeks and beyond. That was slide number 2. Slide number 3. Oh, I'm talking about slides because we have a video version of Skynet that's over on the YouTube channel. Go to W5FC.org website and click on the link, and you can look at the video version and see all the nice graphics that we've put together for this event. All right, slide 3. We've talked about the predicted nova of star T Corona Borealis, which may erupt at any time. It is at a currently brightness of around 10th magnitude. I just checked a few minutes ago, which is much too faint to be seen with just your 2 eyes. T Corona Borealis was supposed to go nova more than a year and a half ago. One recent prediction was for T Corona Borealis to go nova on November the 10th, 2025. Well, that did not happen. So another prediction is on June the 25th of 2026, give or take a few days. I guess when it does go nova, T Corona Borealis could become as bright as the North Star, which is 2nd magnitude. I can see the North Star with just my 2 eyes from my very light polluted location here in Mesquite. Slide Master, slide number 4. Now, about 10 days ago, the sun had no sunspots. Nope. The image that you're seeing right now was taken on March the 4th from the website spaceweather.com. It has some sunspots. The large sunspot complexes on the sun are so large at times, all you need to do is use your solar eclipse glasses to see them. No optical aid needed, just protection using a filter to be able to see the sun. The sun is near its 11-year solar maximum. Actually, we're pretty sure it's already passed. We'll have to do some calculations to determine exactly when it was. Let's see now. I presented information on the solar cycle just 3 months ago on Skynet. Slide Master, slide number 5. All right, did any of you see it? You know, March the 3rd, the total lunar eclipse. It was mostly cloudy here in North Texas. I tried to take a time-lapse video and only got a few minutes of it because clouds moved in. Now, on spaceweather.com, I've talked about that website a lot, even earlier. There was a posting about 2 images of the total lunar eclipse at maximum. That's what we're showing right now on the video version of Skynet. The images were taken by an amateur astronomer, Wah. The right side of the image was taken in regular light. The picture on the left was taken in infrared. Many of the craters on the moon during totality glowed brightly because they retained the heat from the sunlight just minutes before the shadow covered them up. So they look like bright little pink dots all over the purplish moon. If you don't know that, go to spaceweather.com, go back a couple of days and see what the image looks like, or go onto the Skynet channel and you can see it. Slide Master, slide number 6. Well, we've already talked about it. The moon was full on March the 3rd. That was a total lunar eclipse. So the current phase of the moon is a waxing crescent. On March the 10th, the moon is at apogee, which is the point in the moon's orbit that is furthest from the Earth at a distance of 404,385 kilometers. Third quarter phase of the moon is on March the 11th. New moon is on March the 18th. On March 22nd, the moon is at perigee, which is the point in the moon's orbit that is closest to the Earth at a distance of 366,857 kilometers. Slide Master, slide number 7. This evening, if it had been clear, you could have seen Venus, Saturn, and the planet Neptune all in conjunction in the western evening sky. Now, you would have needed a telescope in order to see Neptune. Slide Master, slide number 8. In the southeastern morning sky, you'll find the conjunction of the Moon and Antares on March the 10th. Slide Master, slide number 9. Now here's a challenge. On March the 15th, the Moon and the planet Pluto, okay, it's a dwarf planet, are about 6 degrees apart from each other in a conjunction in the southeastern morning sky. You'll need a moderate-sized telescope and a very good star map in order to find out which little dot of light is Pluto. You might even have to plot it out on a map and then check the next day or two later to see which one moved, and that would be Pluto. Slide Master, slide number 10. On March the 20th at 9:46 a.m. Central Daylight Time is the moment of vernal equinox. On this day, the sun rises directly in the east and sets directly in the west everywhere on the Earth. We also have equal amounts of daylight and darkness, 12 hours of each everywhere on the Earth as well. Unique thing. Slide Master, slide number 11. On the evening of March the 20th, we have a conjunction of the Moon, Venus, and Ceres. Ceres is a minor planet in the western sky. You'll need at least a pair of binoculars in order to see Ceres. Slide Master, slide number 12. On March the 22nd, in the west-northwestern evening sky, you could observe the conjunction of the Moon, the planet Uranus, and the star cluster Pleiades. You'll need at least a pair of binoculars to see Uranus. And this is KF5JJ, and this is Skynet. Slide Master, slide number 13. Now, do any of you out there in Radio Land have a question or need a fill on any of the information I've given you so far? Or do you just have a general astronomy question? My degrees in astrophysics, I might be able to help you out with that answer. Come now with your call sign if you have a question or need a fill. Okay, hearing nothing. Slide Master, slide number 14. So as the Moon waned last week, so do these words for this segment of Skynet. Stay safe, keep well, pray for our world. It's the only one where humans live right now. And until next time, actually I'll be doing another segment on Skynet in a few minutes. Keep looking up so you know what's up. And this is KF5JJ, and this is Skynet, transmitting on the W5FC repeater at 146.88 megahertz. Skynet is also available on Echolink and YouTube. So back to our net control. Bill, it's up to you.
Thank you, Chaz. This is N5BV. I'd like to recognize one additional station that's checked in on the website log. It's Brandon, KJ5EAG. Welcome to the net, Brandon. We appreciate you participating. Okay, do we have any additional check-ins to Skynet? This is N5BB, net control.
Kilo Juliet 5, Gulf Charlie Papa, Clark and Hurst.
I recognize Mark, KJ5G. Let's see, Mark, was it KJ5GXP? Is that correct?
Kilo Juliet 5, Gulf Charlie Papa, Clark and Hurst, KJ5GCP.
I'm sorry, Clark, I really mangled that. KJ5 Golf Charlie Papa, Clark and Hurst. We got it now. Welcome to the net. Do we have any other check-ins? Station had no audio. Please try again. One more time. Does anybody want to check in? to Skynet? If so, please come now.
Alpha Charlie 5, Victor Charlie, Cecil, and Mesquite.
Hello, Cecil. I recognize AC5VC. Do we have any other chickens? Okay, Gus, W5GUS, this is N5BD. Tell us about space exploration and space history for the week.
Okay, Bill, W5GUS here with the space exploration news. For this past week, I guess the biggest news, Bill had, or Chaz had mentioned about the lunar eclipse. A spectacular total lunar eclipse occurred March 3rd, visible across North America, Oceania, and parts of Asia. The event saw the lunar surface turn a deep red as it passed through Earth's shadow. Enthusiasts and scientists alike captured detailed images of the event, which provided data on Earth's atmospheric composition. All right, and on March the 3rd, astronomers using the James Webb Space Telescope announced the discovery of a jellyfish galaxy as it appeared 8.5 billion years ago. These galaxies are characterized by long tentacles of gas and stars being stripped away as they move through dense galaxy clusters. This discovery provides new insights into how galaxies evolved and lose their star-forming material in the early universe. And on March 7th, NASA officially confirmed the selection of United Launch Alliance Centaur 5 as the new upper stage for future variants of the Space Launch System rocket. The Centaur offers increased performance and payload capacity compared to previous versions, supporting more ambitious, which will support more ambitious deep space missions. This partnership aims to leverage commercial hardware to reduce costs and improve the reliability of heavy lift launches. Okay, that was it for this week so far. Let's move to space-related birthdays. Okay, first one, March the 1st, 1924, a familiar name, Deke Slayton, who was a ham, actually. He was one of the original Mercury 7 astronauts who was grounded for years due to a heart condition. He finally flew in 1972 as a docking module pilot for the historic Apollo-Soyuz test project, and his ham license is KC5ST, Kilo Charlie 5 Solo Tango. Okay, next up was Dwayne Graveline, born on March 2nd, 1931. Selected as a scientist astronaut in NASA's fourth group in 1965, but resigned shortly after for personal reasons. He was a pioneer in research on the physiological effects of prolonged weightlessness and countermeasures. Okay, March the 2nd, 1960, Mikhail Tyurin was born, a veteran Russian cosmonaut who served on 3 long-duration missions to the International Space Station, including Expedition 3, 14, and 3839. He conducted 5 spacewalks and logged over 532 days in space, during his career. And he also was a ham. KD5TVQ, let's see, Kilo Delta 5 Tango Victor, Quebec. It was a ham, so it's nice. Okay, March the 3rd, 1949, Bonnie Dunbar was born. She was a veteran of 5 space shuttle missions. She logged over 50 days in space and conducted extensive microgravity research. Her notable missions included 2 dockings with the Russian Mir space station during the Shuttle Mir program. And born on March 5th in 1935, Philip Chapman was the first Australian-born astronaut selected by NASA as a scientist astronaut in '67. He served as the mission scientist for the Apollo 14 lunar mission, but resigned before flying in space. Okay, another of the original Mercury 7 was born on March the 6th, 1927, Gordon Cooper, Gordo. He piloted the first Mercury mission, Faith 7. The final Mercury mission, Faith 7, becoming the first American to sleep in space. He later commanded the Gemini 5 mission, setting a new space endurance record at the time. Also a ham, Kilo 6 Zulu Romeo Tango K6 ZRT. All right, we will move to Valentina Tereskova, born March 6, 1937, the first woman to fly in space. She orbited the Earth 48 times aboard Vostok 6 in June '63. She remains the only woman to have completed a solo space mission and is the youngest woman ever to fly in space. All right, let's move to this week in space history. The Soviet Union's Venera 3 spacecraft successfully reached Venus March 1st, 1966, becoming the first man-made object to impact the surface of another planet. Although the probe's communication system failed before it could transmit any data back to Earth, the mission was a landmark achievement in interplanetary navigation. It proved that Earth-launched craft could accurately target and reach distant planets. The mission remains a testament to the early success of the Soviet planetary exploration program. This event set the stage for subsequent successful landings and data transmission by the Venera program. On March the 3rd, 1969, NASA launched the Apollo 9 mission, a critical step in the race to the moon. This Earth orbital mission was the first crewed flight of the full Apollo spacecraft, including the command service module and the lunar module. Astronauts James McDivitt, David Scott, and Russell Schweikert performed complex docking and separation maneuvers to test the LM's systems. The mission's success proved that the LM was capable of independent flight and docking, which was a requirement for the lunar landing. It was the final major hurdle for the historic Apollo 11 mission later that year. Okay, March the 3rd, but in 1974, Soviet Mars 6 spacecraft reached the Red Planet on March the 3rd and developed its lander for a descent, and deployed its lander for a descent to the surface. During its descent through the Martian atmosphere, the lander successfully transmitted 224 seconds of data back to the orbiter. This data provided scientists with rare measurements of the Martian atmosphere's composition, temperature, and pressure. However, communication was lost just as the lander was about to touch down, likely due to a crash. Despite the landing failure, the atmospheric data was a significant contribution to Martian science at the time. Okay, in March the 7th, 1962, NASA launched the first orbiting solar observatory on March 7th, 1962, from Cape Canaveral. It was the first of a series of 8 satellites designed to study the sun's electromagnetic radiation from above the Earth's atmosphere. It carried instruments to measure solar UV, X-ray, and gamma ray emissions, providing a new perspective on solar activity. The mission was successful in tracking the sun's 11-year cycle and solar flares. This groundbreaking mission laid the foundation for modern heliophysics and our understanding of space weather. All right, and the last item here in space history, the Kepler Space Telescope was launched on March 7th, 2009, with the primary mission of discovering Earth-sized planets orbiting other stars. Over its 9-year mission, Kepler revolutionized our understanding of the universe by discovering thousands of exoplanets. It used the transit method, measuring the tiny dip in a star's brightness as a planet passed in front of it. Kepler showed that planets are everywhere in our galaxy, and many stars host planets in their habitable zones. The mission's legacy continues to guide current and future planet hunting missions like TESS and James Webb. Okay, and that is it for this week, so we will go back to net control and get prepared for Miss Carolyn's Constellation of the Week and some good jokes from Chaz. So back to you, Bill, W5GUS.
Thank you, Chad. Thank you, Gus. I'd like to recognize KF5UFQ. I think that's his call sign. Unfortunately, I don't know his name or location. Or UPQ, KF5UPQ. I don't know his or her location or name. But welcome to the net. Do we have any additional check-ins to Skynet? This is N5BB. Okay, next it's time for Miss Carolyn's Constellation of the Week. Take it away, Chaz, KF5JHA, N5BB.
Thank you, Bill, and thank you very much, Gus, for the segments that you do. This is slide number 15. Miss Carolyn's Constellation of the Week is named in honor of Silent Key, Carolyn, KC5OZT. Carolyn contributed to Skynet each week, almost from its beginning in 2012. Yep, we've had Skynet since 2012, until May of 2019, with a detailed look at one particular constellation each week. Since there are about 52 easily visible constellations seen in Texas throughout the year, out of the 88 total number of constellations, so Ms. Carolyn covered the entire sky as seen over North Texas in a year. And in her honor, we've continued that tradition of a constellation per week and named this segment after her. Ms. Carolyn's Constellation of the Week this week is actually two for Canis Minor, the little dog, and Monoceros. What the heck is a Monoceros? Well, we'll talk about that in a few minutes. Canis Minor's names mean the lesser dog in Latin. Canis Minor represents the smaller dog following Orion, the hunter in Greek mythology. The dog is often depicted pursuing a hare, represented by the constellation Lepus, and we talked about that one a few weeks ago. Monoceros should be a hippopotamus, shouldn't it? Or a rhinoceros? No. Monoceros is a unicorn. I would have changed it to a hippopotamus if it was up to me. Monoceros is it sounds like would be better as a hippopotamus. It's more than a modern day. It's a modern day constellation, having been introduced in the 1600s. There are no myths associated with the constellation. Slide master, slide number 16. Facing south in the evening, Orion can be found by looking for the three stars of equal brightness in a straight line, then evenly spaced. That's the belt of Orion. There are two bright stars above the belt, represent Orion's shoulders. The brighter one on the left is Betelgeuse, or Betelgeuse. The one on the right is Bellatrix. Two bright stars below Orion's belt, Orion's knees. The one on the left is Scythe, and the one on the right is Rigel. Starting with Orion's shoulder stars, draw a line from Bellatrix to Betelgeuse and keep on going. You should run into the brightest star in Canis Minor, Procyon. In between Procyon and Betelgeuse is the faint constellation of Monoceros. Slide master, slide number 17, the jokes of the week. Now, if you're over on Echolink, you can sit there and chat and tell me what you think about the jokes. If you're on YouTube, you can do that as well. I'm not monitoring YouTube tonight, but I should be. What is the difference between a carrot and a unicorn? The first is a bunny feast. The other is a funny beast. I had to practice that for a while. How do unicorns get to the park? On a unicycle. What state do unicorns like the best? This is sort of like a horse. It likes the state of Maine. What do you call the best student at Unicorn University? Well, that would be an acorn. Why did the unicorn want to go to a private school? So he could wear a uniform. And finally, the last joke in the series. What do you get when you mix a unicorn and a cow? Corned beef. Slide master, slide number 18, please. Procyon, also known as Alpha Canis Minoris, literally means before the dog, because it rises before Sirius, the dog star in Canis Major. Procyon is a yellow-white star of spectral class F5. It has a mass of about 1.5 times that of our sun. It's twice the sun's diameter, and is 7.5 times more luminous than our sun. The visual magnitude is 0.37. The star is 11.4 light years in distance. Like its brighter companion Sirius, Procyon is also a white dwarf companion star orbiting it. Procyon B is a magnitude 13. That's kind of faint. It's difficult to resolve due to the proximity of only 3 arc seconds separating it from the primary star. The binary nature of Procyon was long suspected for many years before being finally confirmed. Gomesea, Beta Canis Majoris, comes from the Latin phrase meaning G. Gamea, which means the water-eyed, or the weeping one. It comes from the ancient Arabic legend about Canis Minor and Canis Major were two sisters. One of the sisters, represented by Canis Major, eloped, leaving the sibling behind, sad and lonely. Another version of the story has the sisters separated by the river of the Milky Way. It's a hot star, spectral class B8, shining at a magnitude 2.9. It is a distance of 170 light years. It's slightly variable, belonging to the Gamma Cassiopea category of variable stars. Slide master, slide number 19. NGC, which stands for New General Catalog 2350, is magnitude 12.3. It's a lenticular galaxy, according to Annals of Deep Sky, which has the interesting introduction for this galaxy. NGC 2350 is a class SOA system, which is a lenticular spiral transition type between SO and SA, is a distance of 28 megaparsecs from us, which works to be about 91.3 million light years. So it's no wonder that it's so small and faint. And this one is, and this is one of the brighter galaxies in Canis Minor. This is KF5JJ, and this is Skynet. Slide master, slide number 20. Beta Monoceros is a very nice triple star system shining at magnitude 4.6, and it has been confirmed to be a true trinary system. It was discovered by William Herschel in 1781. According to Burnham's Celestial Handbook, this system is believed to be about 150 to 200 light years away, and separated between the AB pair of stars is estimated to be about 400 astronomical units. An astronomical unit is the distance between the Earth and the Sun. In a Dynamax 8, Beta has no color, and all three stars appear white. The star's multiple nature is noticeable at even 41 power through a telescope. Gamma Monoceros is a magnitude 3.98 and is a double star. It is a faint magnitude 13.1 companion with a separation of 53.7 arc seconds. Primary star is an orange giant star with a diameter about 45 times that of the Sun. It is about 500 light years away. Slide master, slide number 21. SA object number 50 is an open star cluster, is believed to have been the first discovered sometime before the year 1711 by Giovanni Cassini, the father of Jean Cassini, who wrote about his father's discovery in his book Elements of Astronomy. According to other things, the younger Cassini is known for discovering the gap in Saturn's rings, which now bears his name. SA looked for the open cluster in 1771, but could not find it. And this speculated that the elder Cassini may have seen a comet. However, the very next year, in 1772, SA did find the open cluster, and it became the number 50th on his famous list of deep sky objects. Slide master, slide number 22. NGC 2237, 2238, and 2246 is the Rosette Nebula. It's a large nebula complex, best examined in detail through photographs, which shows the intricate dust lanes and the dark nebula globs, rock globs. It was also discovered in pieces, one section at a time, starting in 18 to 64. Its full extent was not known until the early 1890s, when Edward Emerson Bernard photographed it at Lick Observatory. The fact that the rosette was discovered in one piece at a time is why it has 3 NGC numbers. And this is KF5JJ, and this is Skynet. Slide number 23. There are a few more Astronomical League observing program objects in the constellation of Canis Minor, the Little Dog, and Monoceros, the Unicorn. I've just given you a sampling of some of those objects. The Astronomical League has, at last count, 96 different observing programs. Most of them have about 100 objects. If you observe just 10 different objects in an observing program each month, then you can earn an observing certificate and a pen in about a year from the Astronomical League. Slide number 24, and that is Miss Carolyn's Constellation of the Week, Canis Minor, and the Little Dog, and Monoceros, the Unicorn. I want to thank my friends Dave Hutchinson and Dennis Harwell for the research and words that I borrow for all the Skynets. I also at times use the website constellation-guide.com for information. Now, next time we'll take a look at, it's actually a constellation. It could be thought of 2 Gemini twins. And this is KF5JJ Chaz say goodnight, and 73, back to net control.
Thank you, Chaz. This is Inside BB, and this is Skynet. Do we have any additional check-ins? I do not see any electronically. Tom, KE5ICX, we're actually running early this evening. Why don't you tell us about space launches for the week and satellite passes? KE5ICX, this is N5BB, Skynet.
Thanks, Bill. This is KE5ICX. The information for this segment, space launches for this week, comes from Spaceflight Now, launch schedule at spaceflightnow.com. Here we go. March 9th, 10th, overnight, will be launch of Stairway to Heaven. This is from launch time is a window that opens from 5:30 p.m. Pacific time. From SLC-2 at Vandenberg Air Space Force Base in California, Firefly Aerospace will launch its Alpha rocket on a return-to-flight mission following an anomaly seen during Alpha Flight 6. The rocket will carry what the company calls a test demo payload. It will also test out new systems that will fully roll out the Firefly's Block 2 configuration of the rocket on Alpha Flight 8. Then we have March 9th, 10th. Also, a Falcon 9 launch, EchoStar 25. 149-minute window will open at 11:14 Eastern Daylight Time from Cape Canaveral Space Force Station, SLC-40. The rocket will launch EchoStar 25 satellite into geosynchronous transfer orbit. The direct broadcast satellite is a collaboration between EchoStar and its subsidiary DISH, as well as Laturnus Space Systems, a subsidiary of Intuitive Machines. More than 8.5 minutes after liftoff, the first stage booster, tail number B1085, launching for the 14th time, will land on a drone ship, a short fall of gravitas, positioned in the Pacific Ocean. March 11th, another Falcon 9, this time the more traditional Starlink Constellation 17-31. This will be from SLC-4E at Vandenberg. This will launch a batch of 25 Starlink V2 mini-optimized satellites in low Earth orbit. First stage, B1071, launching for the 32nd time, will land on a drone ship, Of Course I Still Love You, in the Pacific Ocean. On March 10th, another Falcon 9 Starlink 10-48 mission from SLC-40 at Cape Canaveral. This will launch 29 Starlink V2 mini-optimized satellites in low Earth orbit. First stage booster, tail 1095, launching for the 6th time, will target a landing on the drone ship. Just read the instructions in the Atlantic Ocean. March 14th, 15th, Falcon 9 Starlink 17-24. This will be SLC-4E from Vandenberg. 25 Starlink V2 mini-optimized satellites, etc., etc. This will be tail number B1088 of the first stage. Will be landing for the 14th time. Of Course I Still Love You, in the Pacific. Then we have Starlink Falcon 9, Starlink 10-46. This one's SLC-40 from Cape Canaveral. Same batch of satellites. This time, first stage booster will be 1090, landing for the 11th time on a short fall of gravitas. Now for something a little different. March 19th, the Spectrum Onward and Upward. This will launch from Launch Complex 1 in Andøya Spaceport, Norway. The Spectrum rocket from ISAR Aerospace will launch on a second test flight. This two-stage rocket is carrying 5 CubeSats on board. CybeSat from TU Berlin, TriSat S from the University of Maribor, Platform 6 from Endurosat, from TU, Fine Space Team. The 6th and final announced payload is an experiment called Let It Go from the D-Cubed Exo launch. Is responsible for managing the payload integration and deployment. So, quite interesting there. Let's see, and then the final one I have for you this evening on that is the New Glenn Bluebird 7 launch. This will be from Launch Complex 36 at Cape Canaveral Space Force Station. The Blue Origin New Glenn rocket will launch AST Space Mobile's Bluebird 7 satellite into low Earth orbit. This is the second satellite in AST Space Mobile's next-generation satellite constellation. It is designed to support space-based cellular broadband for commercial and government customers. This will be the third launch of the New Glenn rocket as of date. As of January 22nd, Blue Origin hasn't stated if it intends to attempt to boost recovery on this mission. This is a very large rocket, so if you get a chance to see it launch and then potentially return its first stage, it's well worth it. It's much larger than the Falcon 9. Okay, next up are visible satellite passages over the next couple of days. The ISS has a number of good passes this week. We have on March 8th, that would be tomorrow, minus 2.5 magnitude at 20:35 in the evening. Remember, we're going to be on daylight saving time, so these times still correlate with that, but just remember, it's going to be an hour difference, so it'll be 8:35 will be probably just as the sun has set. So 20:35 in the evening, it'll reach its highest point at 24 degrees at 20:38, and it will go into shadow at that time. March 9th, minus 2.2 magnitude, 21:24 in the evening, west-southwest. It reaches its highest point at 36 degrees at 21:27. It'll fall to the west at 21:27, also in shadow. Got a really good one March 10th, though, minus 3.8 magnitude, 20:37 out of the southwest. This one almost overhead at 20:40. If I'm going to pick one, this would be the one for the week. It will reach the northeast at 20:42, so it'll make a full pass. March 11th has passed, minus 1.1. This one's a little lower, 21:28. Reached its highest point at 21:30 at 16 degrees, and it'll fall to the north-northwest at 21:31. March 12th, following evening, minus 1.6 magnitude, 20:40. In the evening, reach its highest point at 20:43 at 25 degrees, and it'll fall to the north-northeast at 20:46. Finally, March 13th, minus 2.5 magnitude at 19:53. At the west-southwest, reach its highest point at 42 degrees at 19:56. And then it'll fall to the north-northeast at 19:59. So if you're interested in the International Space Station, this is the week, folks. Every night, just close to sunset, you should be able to see it pass overhead. Next up, Tiangong. This one doesn't have quite as many, just a few. Tiangong is the Chinese space station currently in orbit with 4 modules. We have March 10th is a reasonably good pass, minus 2.1 magnitude at 6:47 a.m. It'll reach its highest point at 6:50 at 79 degrees. It'll fall to the east-northeast at 6:53. Next great pass is March 12th, minus 1.8 magnitude at 6:27 a.m. Reach its highest point at 6:28 at 53 degrees, and it falls to the northeast at 6:31. And that's it for that one. So you've got a bunch of really good passes this week, mainly for the ISS and a few for the Tiangong space station. I've not mentioned all of them. There are some others that are less magnitude, a little lower in the sky. So real eye fest for those of you that want to spot the station. So back to you, Bill. This is KE5 ICX.
Thank you, Tom. This is N5DB, and this is Skynet. Last chance for check-ins. I see AA5ST, Michael. Welcome to the net. Okay. Do we have any other check-ins to Skynet before I close the net? This is N5DB, Net Control. Okay. Hold on. My computer went to sleep, so I had to wake it up. Speaking of sleep, remember that tomorrow we have a time change. That's right. It's a time for us to spring ahead. Daylight saving time. So at 2 o'clock, it'll become 3 o'clock. So tonight we had 21 hams participating in Skynet. Thanks to everybody. We hope you join us here next week and every Saturday night at 9 p.m. to discuss astronomy, space, and space exploration. On this net, the sky is never the limit. We're always looking forward for more net control stations for this and other DARC nets. If you'd like to help, contact nets at W5FC.org. You can follow topics and discussion about this net and astronomy in general on Facebook and X by looking at W5FC.org. Until next Saturday night, this is N5DB. Bill, I'll be closing a net at 10:26 p.m. local time, returning the repeater to local amateur use. See, Tom, I did get it finished early. 73s, and enjoy the discovering the universe, and don't forget, tomorrow morning we set our clocks ahead 1 hour if you have a mechanical clock. This is N5DB closing Skynet and turning it over to Afterglow. Good night.
Thank you, Bill, and thanks for doing the net this evening. We will begin Skynet in 5 minutes, so you have enough time to go and make some popcorn, microwave time. 4 minutes, no longer, otherwise it turns into ashes. So come on back in 5 minutes. We'll be discussing tonight's movie, The Philadelphia Experiment, Part 2 from 19... This is KE5ICX.
Tom, I have a correction. You said we'll be joining Skynet. You mean we'll be joining the Afterglow net. Good evening. I didn't have time to watch the movie. See you later. I've got to get my beauty sleep. I've got things to do tomorrow. K5ICX N5DB. Good night.
Normal state.
I'm completely operational, and all my circuits are functioning perfectly.
Afterglow movie net.
right. Well, it is now time for time travel. There's always time for time travel. You know, you can never be late, and you got a time machine. Except I wish the movies were like that. Okay, well, tonight's movie is called The Philadelphia Experiment 2. Sometimes with a double I thing, the Roman numeral, sometimes the numeral 2, sometimes I think TOO, who knows. This is the second movie. This is a sequel to the original Philadelphia Experiment, I think from 1984. This film has an entirely new cast with the exception of two characters. Brad Johnson, who played David Herding was the hero in the first film, and Garrett Graham in a dual role, both as the main villain, Dr. William Naylor, and his father, Frederick Naylor. Yes, they look almost identical. So here's the plot. It's not necessary that you've seen the first film. They pretty much discuss it ad nauseum. It says 9 years after David Herding was transported through time from 1943 to 1984, he settled down into modern California. He married Allison Hayes, and together they have a son named Benjamin, who's really boring and plays Little League. But Allison has since passed away. Left a single father, David faces several hardships. His business is slowly failing. Ben's school attendance has dropped. The banks are threatening to foreclose on his home. Despite these difficulties, he refuses financial aid from Professor Jim Longstreet, the Philadelphia Experiment's original director, who requests that he rejoin the U.S. Navy. David has been experiencing painful episodes, which Longstreet rationalizes as stress-related. Meanwhile, engineer William Naylor, the son of Frederick Naylor, a Nazi scientist who worked on a project similar to the Philadelphia Experiment, used the experiment's technology for his own creation, meant to transport or teleport a bomber into enemy airspace for a surprise strike, and then teleport it out before the enemies could react. Naylor demonstrates his technology by beaming a model aircraft across the room. His experiment garners significant interest, but Longstreet convinces the panel not to back it out of fear for potential dangers. Longstreet, who gave Naylor the equipment, stipulated that it only be used for testing. Naylor's tests have also caused David's recurring episodes. David learns that Longstreet lied to him and packs to leave for California, hoping to get far away from the experiment. Naylor, desperate to prove the validity of his work, uses technology to teleport an F-117 Nighthawk, but the aircraft does not return. David experiences a painful seizure and witnesses the world change around him, with Ben disappearing in the process. He finds himself completely altered in an alternate 1993 and flees from a heavily armed military unit. David is rescued by Jess, the leader of the underground resistance, who reveals to him that Nazi Germany won World War II and is about to mark the 50th year of Nazi rule over America. The turning point in Germany's victory involving a futuristic aircraft, the Phoenix, which was used to drop atomic bombs on Washington, D.C. and other major targets on the East Coast. The United States and other Allied powers then surrendered to Nazi Germany. The Phoenix was subsequently destroyed in an explosion, and Naylor, who took credit for building it, was ridiculed because he could not reproduce it. Phoenix was, in fact, the F-117 from Naylor's experiment, sent back with a nuclear payload. Naylor intended to send it to Ramstein Air Base in Germany, which succeeded, but was also transferred the craft through time. Naylor found that the plane and claimed credit for inventing it. Longstreet, the leader of the resistance group in the alternate timeline, recruits David to go back in time and stop the Phoenix from being used. This is possible because David's previous time traveling has given his blood unique properties. Naylor, a Nazi administrator in the new timeline, has also developed a time travel technology and is aware of the Philadelphia Experiment and David's experience with it. The resistance attacked Naylor's base in an attempt to reach the machine, but David is captured and Naylor draws the vial of blood. David escapes and travels back in time, but Naylor soon follows. And then finally, David and Naylor arrive in 1943, on the night before the Phoenix leaves on its mission, Mailer encounters his father and tries to explain who he is and what the fate of the mission. And fate of the Phoenix will be. His father states that he does not have a son. While they speak, David manages to destroy the aircraft. He attempts to escape through the time portal, but Mailer shoots and wounds him. Before Mailer can kill him, David shoots and kills Mailer, causing a time paradox that erases Mailer. You know, you can't shoot your father because you won't live to talk about it. David crawls into the portal and returns to the corrected 1993, meeting Ben and his Little League baseball team. He's bemused to discover that Jess is now the mother of one of Ben's teammates. And there you have it. Let me see if there's any critical response on this thing. I'm not seeing anything. Let me back up. Negative. Nobody had any opinions about this film, apparently. Nope. Oh, well. So, wasn't a bad film, but I think Man in the High Castle was much better. But that's my opinion. Okay. With that, we're going to go ahead and take check-ins. So I'm going to take your call sign, your name, and then ask you, and then, if you don't mind, volunteer, did you see this film or not? If you saw the first one, that's fine. If you just want to talk about time travel, that's entirely possible. We have a long dissertation about paradoxes and time travel and what really happens, so it's always a fun discussion. Be prepared. Nosebleeds are always a part of time travel, and indeed, our hero had a nosebleed, so that tells you everything you need to know about time travel. So let's start with your call sign name. Did you see tonight's movie, The Philadelphia Experiment 2 from 1993?
November Tango 5, Tango Mike. Tony in Bird City. Yes, I saw the movie. Oh, so did Ferdinand.
Kilo Foxtrot 5, Uniform Papa, Quebec. Name is Ryan, and I have not seen the movie, but I may watch it now.
November Victor 5 Foxtrot, Virginia. I saw the movie.
Okay, it's a little slow getting going here, but we got 3 so far. I got NT5TM Tony over in Bird City. Yes, he saw the film. We've got KF5UPQ, that's Ryan. He did not see the film, but don't worry, Ryan, we're going to quiz you about time travel movies at some point. And then we've got MD5F Virginia. Yes, she saw the film. Anyone else want to check in? Please come out. Okay, we'll come back in a little bit. I do know one thing. When we've had these nets on the day of the Irving Ham Fest, they are not particularly well attended because everybody's been up super early and they've all gone to bed early. This probably is no exception from any year past, but you never know. Some other folks may check in. So we'll go ahead and start with Tony and T5PM. Tony? Our first round is all about plot. What did you think about the plot to our fine film? Did you see the original by any chance? I think we did watch it, probably a couple of years ago. And how does that contrast maybe with this particular film, if at all, from KE5, ICX?
Well, thank you, Tom. You know, I did have a good time with the of late that deprived me of some freebies and bargains, but it did mean that I'm still awake now. I realized at the Irving Ham Fest, thanks to help from other amateurs, that I had seen the beginning of this movie and the end, but I'd also confused the beginning of the original Philadelphia Experiment with the ending of a movie called The Final Countdown with Pearl Harbor. So, yeah, I knew the beginning of the other movie, but I'd messed up the ending. Well, that's okay, because these people messed up the ending, too. I could follow the plot, although I got really confused about people's names. I forget. It was still very clear that, okay, this guy's then been blasted back into time, and the other guy comes back and says, you know, Luke, I'm your father. I mean, excuse me, hey, I'm your son. Blah, blah, blah. But I also couldn't help with some bits of scientific confusion. For example, there is no chance of a World War II era atomic weapon killing 15 million people. They hadn't even discovered tritium boosting or red kryptonite. These weapons were going to be small, capable of destroying the core of a large town or medium-sized city, but no, the idea of a ground-burst hydrogen bomb killing 15 million people with the fallout drifting up the eastern seaboard was physically impossible because they didn't know how to do that. Likewise, I know the F-117 seemed very impressive to people in the 80s. I'm cringing. But it was practically unflyable. I only have a few ex-Air Force friends. They were all enlisted people. At least one of them liked to call pilots zipper-suited sun gods. So, I'm sure pilots might have a different opinion of this plane. But he also liked calling that plane the Wobblin' Goblin, and I think other people did too. It was unflyable without computer consistence, and the reason it had that funny look was because its weird facets made it easy for computers to calculate how will I now bounce the radar back to the place where it came from as it flew over the, hills and dales of Eastern Europe. It was not a particularly stealthy aircraft. It was just designed for a very specific kind of well-planned mission. It was not magic. It would not have been stealthy if this flown randomly through enemy airspace with a lot of computer support. Urgh. Would not have reached Washington, D.C., and it could not have carried a giant hydrogen bomb. So, now that I've stopped beating up on it for that, I could follow the plot. I paid attention to it, except when they almost had a love story get started, but then they couldn't even give each other a hug. I guess that was meant to, be very poignant. It didn't quite work for me, but, I would have liked them to at least have a hug. I did pay attention. I did follow it. There was some rising tension. It made me want to go watch Raiders of the Lost Ark, though, where they did have that Nazi flying wing, and they did have the lighting the fuel on fire and blowing it up so the Ark of the Covenant couldn't escape. I think Steven Spielberg and Harrison Ford did it better. NT5TM.
All right, thank you, Tony. Boy, you brought up some really good points, and you did your homework, or you already knew. Very good, very logical. I should have known some of that stuff. I didn't even think about it, but then I was beat up by how bored I was through some of the long, boring exposition that never ended. But that's me. Okay, Brian, hang in there. I'm going to ask you a few questions in a bit. Next up is Virginia, ND5F. Virginia, you sat through this fine film. What did you think about the plot from KE5 ICX?
All right, well, first off, I will admit that during the first about 5 minutes of this movie, I was kind of distracted. So I didn't get off to a very good start with just getting some of the details, I guess, that were left over from the first movie, which I did not see. So if Afterglow watched it, it must have been quite a while back, because I don't remember seeing that one, or else that was a week I was on vacation, or I don't know. Anyway, let's see. Next, what little of the plot I understood or liked, I guess Tony has taken the wind out of that with his awesome knowledge of hydrogen bombs and aviation. I probably knew that about the F-117 at one point because a couple years ago I was listening to a lot of books about aviation history. So I'm guessing one of the chapters of one of the books that I listened to was about that plane. In fact, I'm sure it was. Anyway, it was, and then as far as time travel things go, there's so many of them now, and there's so many paradoxical difficulties with anything to do with time travel, which leads me A, to believe that time travel is generally impossible, and B, that movies with time travel just all get a pass because it's fiction, and there's always going to be some loophole or paradox or something that's just, absolutely logically impossible unless you believe in all kinds of, alternate universes and alternate dimensions, which I don't think there's necessarily good backing for that either. So all those things having been said, I thought the plot was an okay idea. The idea of the plane getting sent back and it giving the Germans an advantage, and then everything suddenly being messed up, and the guy who's been there since 1984 and made a life for himself into 1993 is suddenly, time has changed around him and he's in a whole other universe. That was, that was probably kind of a cutting-edge time travel thing for that time. I'm sure someone else had already done something like that. Why there needed to be a sequel after 9 years, a sequel for a movie that I had never seen and don't even know if I've heard of, in 1984. I don't know what the point was of that. But you could follow the plot. There was a lot of exposition. There was a lot of padding kind of in the part where they're in the alternate present, I guess, at that point. And lots of weird speculation about what the U.S. would be like if the Germans had won World War II back in 1943. A little attempt at sort of a prelude to a possible romance. And that was a little surprise at the end where he looks up and it's like, this gal that he knew in his alternate present was now in his real present, and, he remembered liking her, and it's kind of cool that he didn't lose his memory of that whole time frame or that whole version, of time, and honestly, I wish I'd paid a little closer attention to certain things because I hadn't seen the previous movie. This was a movie of its time. The plot was, you could follow it. It was time travel, paradox kind of story, and I don't know, I cared about the dad and his kid, and that, they got to have a happy ending. I liked that, and possibly an even happier ending after that. Lots of your standard evil scientist doing experiments that mess everything up, and just the whole what if the U.S. had what if things had gone the opposite direction. That was, it was pretty standard stuff, but it was okay. So I'm going to give this one an okay, and maybe if I went and watched the first movie and then watched this again and paid closer attention, I might even give it better than okay. It was okay. Back to net, MV5F.
Okay, doke. Thank you, Virginia. I'm not so sure seeing the first movie would have actually brought much to it. There were only two characters that reprised roles in it. It was Brad Johnson playing David Herdick. About as interesting as he was in the original. So, hard to say. I don't know. Hard to say. Okay, let's see. Let me go ahead and ask if there's any additional folks out there. I'm going to go back up to Ryan. Anyone else want to check in this evening and talk about tonight's movie, The Philadelphia Experiment Part 2, or even time travel, or just any particular movie, or what you buy at the Hamfest today? I don't care. Please come to your call sign name. Did you see the film?
Kilo Bravo 9, Sierra Oscar Kilo, Sean Fort Worth. Yes, I did see this movie.
All right, we eked out one more survivor, KB9SOK. Sean, you're up. Plot, what do you think?
Yeah, this is KB9SOK. Well, after apparently the new push talk button's working, so that's a good sign, after it died at the end of last week. Yeah, the first movie, I don't think it really helped, to be quite honest. They really were two completely separate stories. I mean, yeah, there was that little bit of carryover, but you don't really learn anything that great from the first one that they didn't already recover at the beginning of this one. So yeah, I don't think there'd be any enhancements there. The first one, I do believe we watched it just over 5 years ago. Actually, it's been that long, because actually it was one of the very first movies I ever heard reviewed after I moved to the area. Is when I discovered the net. So it's either the first or second movie I ever heard you guys talk about. So it's been a while. I may have misunderstood this, and maybe Tony and Virginia, or Tom, maybe you can correct me. But I thought that they had said during about the whole bomb deal was the plane that he wanted to transport. Actually, that fighter already had a modern-day nuclear bomb on it. And that's one of the reasons they were wanting to grab it and move it, to show that they could do that. So I believe that's how they got a hold of that modern technology, is it was with the plane already. I could be wrong. Yeah, the movie was kind of long and drawn out, and it was kind of probably one of the downsides. The movie actually felt like a made-for-TV movie, just because it seemed kind of cheap. I mean, they had the plane, I guess, but it's in the special effects, so I know it's all third round, but that's just what the movie felt like to me. It felt like made for TV, so therefore they needed to do a lot of exposition because they couldn't really afford to do the time travel stuff any more than what they did. Yeah, I feel the same as Virginia. This was just okay. It wasn't horrible, but it also, I struggled a little bit to pay attention to this one because it just kind of drug out. For instance, we had the scene at the beginning, and I know it's supposed to be a bonding moment, but it's about, between him and his son and the whole curveball thing. And I really thought at some point down the road, that whole curveball thing was going to pay off, because he made the big deal that he was this fantastic pitcher when he was young, and he could do this curveball, and I thought maybe he was going to have to throw something down the line in the movie to get around somebody or do something. I really thought there was a point to it because they spent so much time at it, and they didn't. That was kind of a waste of time. So yeah, this movie just had a lot of extra stuff it kind of really didn't need. But yeah, it's just a basic time travel plot. I agree, you got to kind of give it a pass. After all, these time travel, they just kind of make up what they think the rules would be. Of course, we all know time travel's real because, after all, how did Tom get all those flying saucers? Anyway, so yeah, I think it's it's really just I thought it was pretty easy to follow. Just kind of a plain Jane movie. I don't really have a whole lot to say about the plot other than it wasn't horrible, but it wasn't great either. It was kind of predictable other than I thought there was going to be more to the whole throwing of the ball. But anyway, that's all I got for this round. Back to net. KB9SLK.
All right, thank you, Sean. Let's see here. I probably don't need to ask any additional check-ins. Let me make my comments, and then I'm going to go to Ryan and see what he thinks. Ryan, you'll be up next. I'll ask you about any time travel movie or favorite. We'll talk about time travel movie. If you saw Philadelphia Experiment 1, that's fine too. You can talk about that. So my thought on this film was there were some things I liked about it. And I guess this could be reserved for the third round, which is like the cinematography and that. I thought that the film, considering the fact it didn't have a lot of money involved with it, it was photographed well. It felt a little bigger than what actually was. Of course, you know you don't have a lot there, but it gave a nice mood to it. I thought that the Mailer character, who I guess was in the original, or Mahler or Mailer, the Garrett Graham character, was actually kind of fun to watch. He was sort of a supervillain in all of this, but he was very entertaining, and he came off pretty well. I guess that's the second round, but that's what kept me interested. There was a ton of exposition, none of it very helpful. The French underground, or whatever they are here in the United States, was somewhat engaging, but not very much. I found their dialogue stilted and stereotypical, very silly, to be honest with you, cringe-worthy. So that didn't help much. That concerned me. Let me see what else I was going to say about it. The time travel paradoxes is always kind of a problem in the sense that they didn't have to talk about it so much because we've seen so many time travel movies through the years. Killing your father is going to kill you because you can't be born then, right? Think kind of the stupid things I thought that were interesting was that they were talking about his DNA. Yet somehow or another he was able to be transported back to time with his clothes and his hat. And that's how they determine he's from the alternate reality. So apparently the DNA works on the hat and clothing as well. Who knows? So there's that. I think, too, we've done alternate history before. We did one with a World War II plane. 757 encounters the German Luftwaffe, which was mildly entertaining. But a really good show that came out a few years ago is, if I can bring it up here, now it's, of course, it disappeared on me, but The Man in the High Castle, as both a book and then as a series, I think it was over on, what was it, HBO, I think? I'm not sure. Was an excellent series. I think it went 4 years from Phil K. Dick, who we've done a bunch of his movies and stories through the years from 1962. So that one actually takes place in 1962 America, which is really kind of fun. The series was 4 seasons long with 40 episodes, directed by Ridley Scott. He did some really nice visuals and all of that. And it had that vibe, the sense of being occupied and, the United States has kind of been strip mined by the axis of evil, so there's not a lot left over, which works in conveniently for this film. Of course, the German cars show up in it, which are quite entertaining. That also appeared in this film as well. So I don't know. There could have been some inspiration from this film for the series Man in the High Castle, which I don't have a date on it. I think it's about 5 years ago that it came out. I don't see a date on here. But well worth your time and effort if you want to watch that. It's really kind of a cool series as well. All right. Let me go back up to Ryan, K5UPQ. Ryan, we don't want to leave you out. I know you didn't see the film. Did you see the original film, or have you comment on that. We'll include you in the conversation, my friend. Go ahead, from KD5ICX.
Good evening. The time is 11 p.m. Code 55518. Time code.
I don't know, maybe I covered it over. KF5 UPQ, Ryan, you there? Okay, he's on a phone. I see his note up here in the chat on Echolink, so we'll come back to him when he gets a chance, or he can recheck later if he hears us. So let's go back up to Tony and T5TM. I guess we go on to characterization. You did mention you could tell the characters apart. Could you really from KE5ICX?
Well, thank you, Tom, and I have to say here, a hit, a very palpable hit. Sean got me. I completely forgot that they were trying to appropriate a modern weapon, which could, of course, encompass tritium boosting and a second stage and all that stuff. And that would, also fit in with the plot point of they couldn't duplicate it, the plane wouldn't fly, the weapons wouldn't work, guy committed suicide. I completely forgot the plot point early in the movie about stealing the modern weapon. So, yeah, oops, you got me. She swoons to see them bleed. As far as the characters, they get half credit. They get a C. I could not usually remember their names. That's a common problem I have. I tell people apart by their voices, and if the movie isn't very interesting, I can't remember their names. I could tell them apart. Yay. They seem to have consistent motivations. Yay. But this is not a movie with, moral problems or serious internal conflict. So none of the characters were dynamic. So no, real interesting, tension here between, do I save my son or save the world or save America or protect life on Mars? No. Sorry about that, got thirsty. So, good points for I could tell them apart, but no points for making them dynamic or giving them internal conflicts. Not deep writing, but at least adequate. NT5TM.
Excellent point. I wondered what was missing, and it was sitting there as the big fat elephant in the room. Okay, no motivation. All right, let's see. Next up is Virginia, NV5F. Characterization, my dear, what do you think?
Well, some of them stood out from one another. I mean, the main character, his motivation was, I was fine in 1993 after getting used to being, in the future, and now everything's all screwed up, and I've got to get it fixed back to how it was. But I agree with Tony, there wasn't really any kind of character arc. He didn't really have to overcome some flaw in himself, or there wasn't any kind of real dilemma on his part about what he needed to do or how he needed to go about it. So yeah, not a lot of dynamic characters, but I would say you could tell them apart. The bad guy characters, they all kind of ran together for me. The kid was he was just a nice kid. This guy had raised a good kid. They had lost his mom. It was a pretty standard sort of setup for him. Like, he did a little bit of that. Like, he was frustrated by the death of his wife and his grief, and he was taking it out on his son. And there was a little bit of that going on, but it seemed like he was kind of already finding his way through that before the big shift in his reality happened. But I guess because that was starting to happen, that gave him some motivation, to get things back to normal. I mean, the characters that met him and helped him out, they were likable enough. They figured out, that he was the person who was supposed to, or he helped them figure out that things weren't right, and he was the person who was supposed to fix them, and they helped him. And so everybody sort of had a role, and they fulfilled their role, and that worked in the plot. Every character kind of had their little part in the story. And they were fine. Everything's acting was fine. Some of it was fair to middling. As far as us getting really emotionally involved with these people and the situation, this could have been the kind of movie where you really had some real emotion involved, but the characters didn't really draw you into feeling very emotional about the story or their situation. So they all had their parts to play. They played them. The actors did a reasonable job with what they were given. I could tell them apart. Don't ask me all their names because I'm terrible with names. In fact, I'm one of those people who is not ashamed to ask someone what their name is, like, even after 5 minutes after meeting them, because I sometimes, if the story's really good, I will usually come away from it with their names stuck in my head, if the characters and stories are really good and memorable. But this was fair, and so I don't have any, I didn't wake up this morning thinking about this movie or these people. So it was just an okay movie with okay characters and okay acting, and everything was there, and it was all right. Back to net in V5F.
On Mr. KB9SOK and see what he has to say about characterization. Sean, you're up.
Yeah, this is KB9SOK. Well, unfortunately, I don't really have a whole lot to add here, even though there's just a few of us tonight. I think you nailed it, Tony. That's what was missing, was it needed some kind of conflict. You're right, if he'd had to make a choice, it would have been much, much better. And I think that would have made a huge difference in the plot. So yeah, the characters, I agree, were just probably, C-level characters. Nothing horrible, just there just was nothing was learned by anybody in this film. There really was just kind of a straightforward, once again, it felt very much like a TV plot, maybe from an hour TV show. Just need to go back time, fix the thing, get back, that's it. And that's really what this was. Not that anybody did a bad job on this, it's just the story just didn't really lend itself. I agree, I did care about the main character, I wanted him to get back to his son, but it didn't really draw a lot of emotion, so I agree with Virginia on that. They could have pulled this in a lot more, but they didn't. So, yeah, just kind of down the middle. One other little plot thing I forgot to mention, and Tom touched on it, and that's kind of what reminded me of it, was when our villain decided to inject himself with the hero's blood. I don't know why that little bit of blood would have been enough to protect him. So I thought that was weird. Now a couple of these, I thought they did okay. I've seen them in other stuff. Our evil scientist, I've seen him in a few things. Unfortunately, I seen him in a really bad B movie once, and I always think of that movie when I see him, Bud the Chud. So, every time I see this, what I think of. So it's hard for me to get that image out of my head. But anyway, not a lot of characters. Back to that, KB9SOK.
All right, thank you, Sean. Okay, let me see. I'll go ahead and ask if anybody else is out there. Probably not, but you never know. Anyone else want to check in? Please come to your call sign name. Did you see tonight's movie we are talking about, Philadelphia Experiment 2, TOO? It's got a 1.5 stars on Letterboxd. All right, as suspected, none. Yeah, I wasn't overly impressed with the characters. There's this just stereotyped French underground people, just terrible. If you saw Top Secret, I think that the French underground was much better in that than in this, and they were just hamming it up like crazy in that film. But they were far more interesting as characters. These were not. Our main character is somewhat of a dullard. I didn't think he was as bad as some of the reviews I've read, but he wasn't all that great either. Our arch villain was hamming it up and eating cardboard sets everywhere, which is fine. I grew up on William Shatner, so I'm not expecting a lot. Although he overacts, this guy was underreacting to just about everything. I don't know. I understand and why they put the kid in and do all of that. I really do. I mean, it's supposed to provide some sort of empathy and that, but it's the kids and the shaggy dog and all of that. That technique has been done to death, and it didn't help this film. It made it come to almost a dead stop. First, at the beginning, it was slow getting started. Right in the middle of the film, we decided to just start talking about time travel and what it would mean and the implications, and that's fine, I suppose. It had some interesting background stuff. Let the characters act and react together, but it just went on for too long. So pacing was slow, with characters just blabbing at each other forever, boring each other to death. So I found that really tough. It wasn't until the very end that it started picking up, and we had some explosions to help with it. But even then, at the end, I really didn't care about the characters all that much. And then it all ends, and everything just manages to just cleanly clear up. There should have been some sort of changes. It wasn't exactly the same. The one guy, Mailer, is gone. How does that affect the history? Yes, I know we got the girlfriend thing going on, and that's fine, I guess. But even still, it should have felt a little creepier or different or something. Now, I will say they had a interesting, though it was panned, remake of The Time Tunnel, which was a 1968 series. A similar thing. You go back in time and alter history, and how does that play out? Type of thing. It was a very popular series, and then they made a more sophisticated version of it about 2000, in the process of reviving all the Irwin Allen stuff. And I thought that it was interesting because they went across multiple time frames, including World War II and Nazi Germany, of course, and that was involved, and then the plague coming from the Middle Ages being conflated into that conflict. I thought it was a really interesting idea. There were some fun moments in it. The characters were interesting, but that did not get green lit. So there's plenty of opportunities. Even a little bit of humor can help a movie. This had none. And I think that's the problem. I thought the first one did not have any humor either, even with this fish out of water story. So I don't know, just kind of lacked something there. All right, well, let's go ahead and move on to the third round. We're going to finish early tonight. I'll go to bed.
Time out.
Count sheep or time travel devices. Okay, next up is anything you want, special effects, cinematography, sound, ideas, whatever you want. So we'll start with Tony and T5TM. You got it, Tony.
Hey, Tom. Well, thank you for staying with us. The one part of this movie that I would give better than a C to, I asked Virginia today at the Hamfest, is this a bad movie or a good movie? And she said, well, you'll see bad parts and good parts. And she's right. It's kind of a mediocre movie. It has some redeeming moments and some lesser moments. The one part of this movie I would give an above-average grade to, and I am embarrassed that I didn't remember the credits, so I don't know who this person is. I want to give a very solid B to their location scout. I really think they did a good job of finding these. Brutalism, remember, is a French word. Brut means raw concrete, bare unpainted cement. It doesn't necessarily mean cruelty. It just means unpainted cement. Whoever was the location scout did a great job of finding brutalist locations that could be lit very harshly to set a mood. I thought especially the early part of this movie had some really neat-looking location shoots with great shadows and very stark lighting that really created a mood. So, I wouldn't give the writer a B, and I wouldn't give the actors an A or a B. I really would like to give the location scout a very solid B. I hope they could go on to location scouting 2 the second semester. NT5TM.
All right, excellent. Thank you, Tony. Boy, I'll agree with you on that. That was the thing that really stood out to me. All right, let me see if Ryan might be there still. K5UPQ. Ryan, you off the phone? Would you like to talk about the movie or anything that you've seen time travel-wise? If you're there, go ahead from KE5ICX. Okay, we'll move on to Virginia and V5F. Virginia, anything your heart desires, whatever you'd like to talk about, from KE5ICX.
Okay, well, let's see. I'll start with music, which I don't remember the music very well. I think that's just because it served its purpose and it didn't stand out as really great or really terrible. It just was there and it did its thing, and it served the story to, I guess, cue us to what mood we're supposed to be in. There was definitely contrast. I know that the opening sequence versus the little section where he's in the, we go to his, his, after having been in the, the latter part of the 20th century for 9 years and having built a life, and even though his life is difficult because he's lost his wife, you see this kind of warm, glowing, they're definitely setting a mood there with a different color keying, almost to an extreme, almost where you feel like you're suddenly in a different movie, which I noticed that, where it's like suddenly I said, we went from the movie Firefox to the movie The Sandlot, like all in one, like it just in one. It's almost like they cut in 2001 from, you know, a bone flying through the air to a satellite or something, but too incongruent in just the feel of it was so different. And so I thought that was a little, almost too perfectly, you know, but then of course his situation of living through grief and loss was in contrast to the golden warmth and glowing, you know, wonder of his surroundings and his, you know, his little son who looked like a very sweet, wonderful kid, and his life that seemed, you know, like it, at least it seemed a certain way. So I thought there was a little inconsistency there, but overall, I thought that the cinematography on this was pretty good. That action sequence where suddenly he's, you know, time has changed, everything's changed around him, and he's suddenly in this war zone, and he's running from helicopters, and that action sequence, and I was watching that going, okay, I have to remember this was 1993, this was before they used computers to do everything, and this is all like, this, they did all of this. You know, this was actually all done, even if there was compositing or whatever. In fact, some of the compositing and special effects on this were kind of terrible, but the cinematography on it, in the action sequences was pretty good, and overall the lighting was pretty good, the contrast was pretty good. I think that's what made the locations seem very stark, and I think they were just locations, and they were very well selected for the, you know, the alternate reality sequences, but at the same time it was just how they were photographed, and I really thought the cinematography on this and some of the editing was good, and overall technically okay. The visual effects were blah, they weren't really very good. The budget on them was not there, and didn't really, and made them kind of stick out. They weren't consistent with the quality of some of the other stuff in the movie. As far as just visually, overall, the movie seemed pretty good. And then at the end, you know, you get back to like the normal 1993, and then it's all warm and glowy again, and you're happy that it's a happy ending. And I was kind of happy for these people. I was rooting for this guy, and I'm glad he fixed everything and even had a possible love interest there at the end. I'm kind of going back to part 2 a little bit there, but yeah, I think there was a lot here that was, you know, a lot here that was pretty good, like technically, just the drive of the story and characters, dynamics of characters wasn't really there. I cared if the guy, you know, I wanted the good guy to win, but I wasn't like super invested in whether this was okay or not, you know, at the end. Like I said, I didn't wake up thinking about it this morning, so didn't leave a whole lot of an impression. But while I was watching it, I saw some good stuff. Back to net, MV5F.
Oh, good. I think we got 2 people already who have decided that the cinematography was pretty good. So let's move on. Next up is Sean, KB9SOK. Sean, your thoughts on anything you'd like about the film, technical or otherwise, from KE5 ICX.
Yeah, this is KB9SOK. Well, the popcorn I ate last night during the movie was quite excellent, so there's that. No, I agree with what everybody said. The music was just kind of in the background, just blah. Yeah, I agree. The cinematography was good. You know, they did do a good job there. So yeah, there was that. It's pretty bad that's the best part of the movie. But yeah, I agree. And then, yeah, because I agree that the special effects were pretty rough, and with the decent backgrounds, and it definitely stuck out. Definitely some cheap effects. Yeah, I kind of had a problem with them using that really cheap dish to quote unquote transport even the test object, and somehow magically they could tap into any dish anywhere around the world and use it to grab objects out in, in the air. So that seemed kind of really far-fetched. So yeah, that part of the special effects was not good. The filming was good, and also too, the audio was good. That's one thing is nice about watching these older movies. I don't have to rewind them. I can actually hear everybody says. So that was great. Yeah, did we really need a sequel to the original? Probably not. Unfortunately, this was a more rare instance back in the day, especially for such an odd movie like that. Today we're doing reboots and reboots and reboots and, extensions we don't need on stuff because they clearly can't come up with any modern-day sci-fi original stuff. So it's kind of, we seem to be stuck in this today. A couple of days ago I seen that they're teasing a new Firefly, which was one of my all-time favorite science fiction. So I've got very mixed feelings about that. Yes, it'd be cool to see something, but at the same time I know Disney will screw it up because that's who owns it. So I would just assume maybe they didn't. So yeah, this movie, I'm glad it had a happy ending. I do like happy endings. This movie was just, at the end of the day, was just kind of in the middle of the road. Something I don't really think I would watch again. But it was just okay. So, as always, enjoyed the conversation and looking forward to the next one. Back to net. This is KB9SOK.
Very good. Thank you, Sean. Thank you for your comments and everybody with your comments. Let me go ahead and say mine on this. I like what y'all had to say about the cinematography and the visuals and even the audio. I agree with you. I think it was all well done, and they did a lot with what little bits they had. It looked good. I particularly liked our crazy, maniacal, mad scientist guy with the long lab coat, which, by the way, we saw the hand thing go in the pockets with the really long sort of, I don't know what you would call that. At any rate, doesn't matter. It looked good. I liked the maniacal, crazy guy and his mannequins and stuff, and the brutalism, which is what Tony mentioned. Very familiar with that. I remember spending time at the Xerox Management Training Center back in the 70s in Leesburg, Virginia. It was all of that you saw in that scene with the lighting and everything. We had all of that with Harvest Gold cushions going on the metal, on the concrete stuff. Everything was concrete, looking like that, very gray except for that Harvest Gold stuff. Very 70s-ish looking back then and very dated today. But it does work very well and effectively. I love the idea of adding the military mannequins in there from his little thing showing that he respects history and that they're going to go and become some, the military history thing. It actually has a nice backdrop. The lighting does a nice job with that as well. It gives us something visually interesting to watch, which is kind of fun. Is it meaningful in the end? No, not at all. But I would say anybody, as Tony mentioned, the location guy, gal, whoever it was that did it, did a great job. Cinematographer did a great job. I hope these people found good, lasting gigs somewhere because I thought they did really, really well. Music was a jazz score, which is sort of like something you would figure from maybe from a 50s mid-century or from the 40s film noir type of thing. It was very popular then. It works okay in this. It's not super important. It sets sort of a mood. I'm not sure it's exactly right, but it isn't bad, and it certainly didn't detract from the film in any way, so I'll take it at that. I think it was okay. All right, with that, next week's movie, by popular request, I believe the request was for Battle Beyond the Stars, and I did find it. I can't find it in my notes. I will double check it to make sure that the link is good. and that will be our movie. I think that's from about 1980 or 81. That'll be on the stars. If I am wrong, if that's incorrect, you can correct me as soon as I finish this thing. I will go ahead and post it on Facebook and also send it via the email. If you've got other movies you want to suggest, by all means, we can do it. This net's been out there for a very long time, and we've had kind of a turnover in people. So there are movies. I didn't realize it had been 5 years since we'd seen the Philadelphia Experiment. It just seemed like it was only a year or two ago, but yeah, we've been doing this for a long time, and as you get older, time goes by a lot faster, unfortunately. So there you have it. Next week, that'll be on the stars. Thank you all. This is KE5ICX. I'll be clear unless there's any comments.
I have a comment.
Well, commenter, please go ahead.
Okay, it was Battle Beyond the Stars. I watched that kind of in passing, and I thought it would be a good one because it's kind of got a little bit of Star Wars, a little bit of Star Trek, a little bit of post-apocalyptic. It's just good, bad science fiction. I think it would be fun. It's got people, familiar faces in it. And another comment to Sean's remark about reboots and remakes and rehashes and re-everythings. It's funny how we get in our own little echo chambers, and I can think that everybody should know about this because I'm excited about it. But it's amazing how many people don't know about it. I think I have mentioned it a few months ago. Another Andy Weir book, he's the guy who wrote The Martian, which is great. Another one of his books is going to be released. Real, genuine, and rebooted science fiction. It's already in pre-screenings for press, but Project Hail Mary is coming out in a few days, and I'm very excited about it because it is something original. It's science fiction. It's hard science fiction. It's got heart, I can tell by watching the previews, and it's very populist. It's kind of got a feel to it like what got me into science fiction in the first place was movies like 2010, things that weren't so out there that people couldn't relate to them, and they weren't super avant-garde. So if you want to see some good original science fiction at the movies, I think that would be a good bet. I am going to go see it on March 16th, and I'm probably going to go see it 3 or 4 times, because I'm just so excited about it. So there you go. There's my comments. Back to net in V5F.
Oh yes, I've been been waiting for this for quite a while. Project Hail Mary is, I'm very interested in seeing that movie in the theater too. I agree with you quite a bit. Years ago, and we haven't done it in, I think probably since COVID, we've not done a field trip going to see a movie, and that would be an excellent one to do. Unfortunately, I probably can't join you, but we used to go and see movies. I saw about 5 different movies through the years together as a group on a Sunday, usually, then go eat afterwards, and then go and talk about the movie the following Saturday. So I leave that up and posit that to anybody who's interested, usually through the chat. That's how that stuff got arranged. So if you're still interested in doing that, it's possible. Go see it, and we can talk about it. The Battle Beyond the Stars, I think it's on Tubi. I'll have to go back and look. Wherever it is, it's a new copy that's struck in HD, so it's not all dark and difficult and blurry to watch. It looks like it's a pretty darn good copy. I think it has ads in it, but it looks, it's going to be a lot easier to watch than the first time around, or as a VHS copy, which is how I saw it the first time around cable. This one actually is HD and looks pretty good. It looks like they worked on the color of it, and the shade, and the actual exposure looks really good. Okay, till next time, we'll say bye-bye and bye-bonds. We'll see you next week. This is KE5, ICX.
Thank you, Tom. I look forward to it. NT5TM.